Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Om Ajnana Timirandasya
Hare Krishna
Jnananjana
Maharaj.
Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol and Hare Krishna. Welcome to everybody. Although very few of you are here today, I am committed to meet you on today's beginning of the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that is the 18th chapter. Nice to meet with all of you here today, and it'll be very nice if we can actually see you and the video is kept on. That will be even better. Okay? Yeah. How's life? How's life?
Good Maharaj.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. I think you remember what we did in the 17th chapter, in the chapter called the Divisions of Faith. I've already summarized it last time for you. And actually, it's mentioned in the beginning of the 18th chapter. Prabhupada says that the Bhagavad Gita is over in 17 chapters. It's actually over in 17 chapters, but since Arjuna is asking some question, he is summarizing everything that we went through till now. So Krishna in the 18th chapter summarizes Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. I think you remember that I told you that the whole Bhagavad Gita is like a sandwich. The masala, the real good stuff is in between, that is Bhakti Yoga. And on the top, the slice of bread is Karma Yoga, and the bottom slice is Jnana Yoga. So now you'll see a lot is focused on Karma and Jnana. So we are going to read some distilled information from what Krishna spoke till now, a little more deeper in things that he spoke. So if you see, the whole chapter begins with the beautiful question of Arjuna. As usual, Arjuna's questions are so wonderful, so practical to all of us living in this material world. Arjuna vacha sanyasasya mahabaho tattvam ichchami veditum tyagasya cha hrishikesha pritakeshi nishudana. Arjuna said, O mighty armed one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, tyaga, and the renounced order of life, sannyasa, O killer of the Keshi, demon, master of the senses.
Hare Krishna.
So we actually heard a lot. The whole Bhagavad Gita is about work. Nobody in this material world is going to keep quiet. This is Karma Bhumi. This is a place where you are consigned, you're imprisoned, and you're asked to work. Of course, we have sophisticated terminology for the work that we do inside the prison house in the material world. We have coined phrases and we glorify the work of people. But if you zoom out and see, as per Bhagavad Gita, you are resigned to fate. you are committed to work. You cannot do anything else, right? You have to work. So you have to know how to work, how to be smart in work. And that's what is the content of the Bhagavad Gita. Right at the beginning, Arjuna made not a very intelligent decision of saying that I'll leave the battlefield, I'll run away from seeing my grandfather Bhishma and my guru Dronacharya and everybody. I can't do it. And Krishna caught hold of him and said, you fool, you're not understood properly. Right? You're not understood properly. You must understand it's a very high level discussion, not meant for people in this material world who are very committed to have material enjoyment and therefore work very, very hard. It's completely against that. And it's a brilliant intellectual exercise to understand what does working smart really mean. And it's so nicely explained by Krishna, but it definitely requires explanation and understanding and reading and deliberation, and then practice in order to be able to fully absorb ourselves in this beautiful explanation given by Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita is about work, it's about knowledge, it's about renunciation, it's about bhakti, it's about yoga, you name it. All these things are, very nicely bundled up. And each one of them is deeply interconnected. That's the overview that we have come to till now. We have heard about the way the material world operates, the prison house that I mentioned. The prison house means the material world as such is a place that houses all of us. And in that housing, how this mechanical arrangement works through the three modes of material nature, through the software that is embedded in all of us, through the hardware, how we express through the body, and everything is actually deeply, nicely monitored. They're not free. We actually don't have information and knowledge about how we are run and pushed and actually, guided also by the Paramatma in the heart. Is such a complex thing, but it can be very easily understood if we accept the Guru and we hear and learn from him. That's the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita. So now Arjuna is asking, after hearing everything, all these things which are sort of, overviewed, he is asking, but I want to know the technical difference between sacrifice and sannyasa, or the renounced order of life. Samnyasa. Nyasa means giving up. Samnyasa means giving up everything. So he's saying, I heard about it. What does it really mean? You see, many times we hear terminologies, terms and everything. It's not enough if you just get the terminology right and you get your information right. You must also understand what it means. Human beings have got the capacity, rationality, and the intellectual ability to sit and think about something and understand it. It's not enough. Our educational institutions are mostly based on getting the information and writing the exam and showing that I know. KNOWLEDGE. Knowledge. I know. I want to show you that I know. And I want to show you that I can recollect all that I know. I have memory. And then I recollect it and I show it. And then, okay, you know. That's it. But actually, when it comes to actually putting into practice what you know, we become a zero at that. We become a zero of that. But if you have a profession that needs to practice what you know, then actually you get to know more. That's called Vijnana. Jnana. Vijnana Sakitam Yajnatva Mokshayate Ashubha. It's so interesting what's given in the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is saying, now that you know, you act. Yati ichhasi tata kuru. So all of you are in professions. Some professions, of course, are simply theoretically based and you give consultation on the basis of theory. Some professions are actually consultations that actually are based on your experience, and you make the other person convey that experience and make him do it and make him enjoy success, and he pays you for it. Because you've given him Gyan and Vigyan together. To give you a crude example. Or like Sandhya here is a doctor, and she may be a pediatrician or a gynecologist or whatever a profession is. But it's not enough she has theoretical understanding and she has studied the theory very well, and she knows Gray's Anatomy and she knows that, this, everything together. But when she picks up a scissors and a surgical things and then actually cuts open somebody's body parts, she bloody well know how to put it right properly. It's not enough if you're theoretically based. Am I right or not, Sandhya? What do you think? Let's see what she says. Because it's life and death. You stand in front of that person and then you cut through his tummy, his other organs, and he's put his life in your hands. Can you just operate with information, or could you operate with experience, knowledge, firmly fixed, because that person's life is in your hands? I'd like to hear from you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna Maharaj. It is not just knowledge that works, something beyond knowledge. I think knowledge works to some extent, but something within from, I think, much deeper comes out too, because what you see is not just what you do and go as routine. Even after you close and come out, you may at times feel a little doubt for what you've done for the patient.
Oh.
Does happen, Maharaj, does happen.
Okay, you see that. So many of you have these experiences in life. Not only that, you have to be a doctor. Each one of you are housewives, you have to tend to people, you have to think a lot. How to deal with my daughter and her situation, how to deal with my son and his situation. Is that, is this and everything, and you have to practice it. You can't simply, just slap people with information and knowledge. Just like I can slap you with so many shlokas, which I know from the Bhagavad Gita, and leave you dazed and go back with understanding nothing about anything. So Krishna is, now Arjuna is asking, tell me, sannyasa and tyaga, what is the difference? Tyaga means sacrifice. So he's asking a very pinpointed question. Like I told you, Arjuna's questions are always very well thought out. It shows that he is listening very carefully to Krishna. And Krishna, of course, is inspiring him, because he has already mentioned, Bhakto Sime Sakha Cheti. You're not only my good friend, but you're also my devotee. Right? You have understood things very well. So this is a technical question. Like I said, we all have to work in this world. It's karma bhumi. We are cursed to work, you can say. You can't keep quiet. If you keep quiet, you'll blow up in your head. So somehow or the other, everybody engages them in some sort of work. But the world is designed for you to work for a particular reason. There is a purpose. There is a meaning to life. And you should achieve that meaning through your work. That is the point of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, we know that in information, we know working for Krishna, working to satisfy Krishna is devotional service. And that is the purpose of life. But in the entanglement that we are in, how we will change, how we will transform, that is being mentioned. From the situation that we are in an attached working atmosphere, where you have a great lust for the fruit of the work that you do. I want it. I want that fruit. That's mine. I want to enjoy it. Everybody is so possessive of the fruits of their work, and everybody wants to enjoy. And that's why work, prove it to work. It's mentioned. Karma, karmis. We spoke about them a lot in the 3rd chapter, in the 5th chapter also. Krishna talks about that. From there, he has taken us to a point of saying, you do it for me. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayyat pitamano buddhir mame vaishyasi asamshaya. That's the other end. He is bringing Arjuna to the point of saying, simply work for me. Thinking of me, you work. As a matter of duty, you do it for me, and I get pleased with you. Whether you like it, you don't like it, you like the fruit, all that, forget it. Simply do it for me. That is the height, the other end of the spectrum. Devotional service to the Lord. So Krishna is pulling Arjuna through this entire thing right up to the point of doing it for me. And Arjuna does it. Right? Arjuna does it. So here you will see, having said that, Krishna is replying, Kamyanam karmanam nyasam sanyasam kavayo viduhu sarva karma phalatyagam prahustyagam vichakshana. I like this way that Krishna speaks so neutrally. He's saying that the great learned people have said so. Actually, he doesn't have to refer to and rely on learned people. He's the Supreme Lord. He can say, I say so. But very neutrally, in a secular way, he puts it. Because he knows this world is filled with envious people. And they'll immediately say, why the hell should I listen to you, Krishna? Who are you? So he is taking reference and saying, Sanyasam kavayo viduhu. Kavi, kavaya. Great learned people, viduhu means they have mentioned. What is the definition? Kamyanam karmanam nyasam. Karmana means work, activity. Kama means desire, material desire. Nyasam means to give up. Kamyanam karmanam nyasam. Giving up all activities that are motivated through a material desire, which means sense gratification, enjoyment for yourself and everything, extended or selfishly placed within yourself. That is called sannyasa. I don't do anything for my enjoyment, for my benefit, or for the associate benefit of those people whom I am invested in. Even if it is my family members, if it is my nation, my community, none of these things, all of them are material. Directly, my own benefit is a selfish material thing. Extended selfishness, like Prabhupada says, for my family, for my relatives, for my community, for my nation, all that is simply the extension of the same selfish interest. All these things are called kama, material desire. Kamyanam karmanam nyasam sannyasam kavayo viduhu. Such a person is called a sannyasi. Means his internal makeup is, I don't do anything for myself. I will give up all these activities that are meant for myself. Okay, somebody will say, yeah, I don't do anything for myself. I do everything for others. I open up a hospital and I work in that for the sake of people. I cure them. I give treatment to them free. This also could be sannyasa, because I'm not doing anything for myself. I'm doing everything for people. That also could be one type of sannyasa, right? But Krishna will clarify very carefully as he goes ahead. And he tells him real sannyasa means doing it for me. Doing it for me, not for just for the people of the world and everything. That's also good because it helps you to stay away, detached and everything. But it's very difficult to remain detached in that situation because you will get fame, name, you will get material profits, and immediately you'll dip down again into it. You'll again become a regular fruitu person. But doing it for me is the real goal. But that Krishna will explain later. But the technical definition is anything that is materially motivated, giving up that. Now that's the foundation of work in this world. Everybody is going to do it for some benefit only. Who the hell is going to say that you're not going to get anything out of it? Can you do it? You won't get name, fame, recognition, acknowledgement, money, nothing you'll get. Can you do it? Nobody is going to do it. Nobody is going to do it. But really speaking, if you fall in love with Krishna, you will do it for Krishna. That is really perfect. Because to not have an emotional connection with the result of your work, connected with somebody personally, is a very difficult job. It's dry renunciation, which is what the Mayavadis do. The sannyas in Mayavada is simply dry renunciation. But Krishna is proposing, you do it for me. And then gradually, as we do it for Krishna, we fall in love with Krishna out of purification. And that becomes perfected. So perfect sannyasa. I am a sannyasi. My title is Bhakti Vinoda Swami. So I was conferred this title by my spiritual master and other seniors. Awarded the title. It means that I carry a tridanda with me to remind me always that my body, vak, kaya, mano, vakya. Kaya means the sharira, body. Mana, mind. Vakya means your words. Mind, body, and words completely dedicated to the service of Krishna. That is the meaning of samnyasa. That incidentally, sometimes I may have the opportunity to enjoyment. Just like if I sit in front of a plate of prasadam, obviously Krishna has brought it in front of me, and I am going to taste that prasadam, and that is gratification for me. But then that is allowed because it is Krishna prasada. So incidentally, some types of gratification are within the ambit of sannyasa. You cannot say, I will take the food and roll it up and throw it into my throat and into the pipe and down into my stomach without tasting it. That will be a really cold and dry pronunciation. So I am a sannyasi, and I try to think about spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, teaching people Bhagavad Gita, awakening their spiritual life, awakening their love for Krishna, engaging them in devotional service, pleading with them, sometimes coaxing them, sometimes energizing them. And people come in all shapes and sizes. And I don't claim to be myself a very great devotee. So within the limits of my own realizations and my own experience, I try to help people because I want to please Krishna. I want to please Guru. I want to please Srila Prabhupada. I want to have a happy community of people who are practicing Krishna consciousness properly, nicely, and they are benefiting from it. In this way, I offer my services to the community, to the world, according to the instructions of Prabhupada. So that is my sannyasa. I'm just giving you a down-to-earth, brief, practical situation. The other thing is tyaga. Sarvakarma phalatyagam prahustyagam vichakshanaha. Karma phala. I do something, I have a fruit that comes out of it. Nobody does anything in this world without a fruit, the result. So the fruit that comes out of it, I give it up. I sacrifice it. Now, this is another austere thing to do. That I work very hard, at the end of it, the fruit is not mine. I can be a slave. If you look into the slave mentality in history of America and Europe and everywhere, you'll see they were enslaved, colonized, people were enslaved. They were made to be slaves. They were sold and bought as commodities. They were chained and they were sold. Means they have no right of their own. They are commodities that can be bought and used and sold. The women were sex slaves. The children were taken for children's labor. The men were flogged and beaten and asked to work as peasants and all sorts of miscellaneous things. They were given very less food. They were treated as less than animals. Now, in that situation, you have nothing to do but complete forced sacrifice. You're forced to sacrifice. You have no dignity. You're not given any value. So imagine you voluntarily doing that slave thing without anybody on top of you forcing you to do it. You do it without any this thing. Nobody will be there in this world like that. You'll not find. But a person who takes up tyaga with full understanding of its spiritual benefits, he will do it. Because he's getting a spiritual benefit. Renunciation is one thing. Giving up the result of your actions is another thing. These two things are mentioned. So in the translation that reads, Satyendra Hire Desai, please read the translation for text 2.
Yes, Maharaj. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life, sannyasa. And giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation, tyaga.
Tyaga. Okay. So we will read the purport briefly. It's very interesting. Jaya Nair, will you read that purport?
Yes, Maharaj. The performance of activities for results has to be given up. This is the instruction of Bhagavad Gita. But activities leading to advanced spiritual knowledge are not to be given up. This will be made clear in the next verses. In the Vedic literature, there are many prescriptions of methods for performing sacrifice for some particular purpose. There are certain sacrifices to perform to attain a good son or to attain elevation to the higher planets. But sacrifices prompted by desires should be stopped. However, sacrifice for the purification of one's heart or for advancement in the spiritual science should not be given up.
Yes, thank you. So you can see there is a light discrimination understanding there. What you should give up and what you should not give up. That's what I call smart sacrifice, smart renunciation. You should not give up everything bland, black and white. You should know how to. That's why you need assistance. You need consultation for how to renounce, how to sacrifice. Sri Prabhupada will say in the next few shlokas how a sannyasi should not take part in any karmic activity. He is not supposed to go for a marriage and this thing they will say he should not do na niragni na chakriya. You heard this earlier in the 3rd chapter or in the 5th chapter. Sannyasa definition. That a sannyasi, nira agni means he should not deal with cooking and anything to do with the fire. Niragni na cha akriya means not that type of fruit to work he should do. So Prabhupada will explain that no, but he can cook for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if you see in America, Prabhupada went and the first thing he did is cooked. He became a cook for all the people who came for the programs and he made wonderful dishes. He made sweet halwa, he made puris, he made pulao, he made sweet rice, he made very good sabji and all these things and he cooked and he offered it to the Lord. And then he distributed to all these people and they came in hordes to eat it. They became attracted first by eating the prasadam that Prabhupada offered. Now can you say, no, you're a sannyasi, you're not supposed to cook. That's foolishness because by cooking, I got them all to accept Krishna consciousness and they all became devotees. Why I will not cook? Why I'll not cook? Of course I'll cook in a place like America, but there are no Indian dishes available for them and it's so tasty. It's offered to the Lord and they came in huge hordes to eat it. The Swamiji is such a nice man. I like him. He cooks and feeds you. Then he engages you in music and dance. And then he gives you some little philosophy, which is also very interesting. Everything about him is good. They came in hordes. He marketed so smart. Rather, if he had stuck around with rules and regulations saying, I'm a sannyasi, I should not light the fire. And in America, I'll go and beg from street to street. He'll become a bum. They'll just classify him as you go get a job somewhere. Go back to India, they'll tell you. Right? Instead of doing that, what did he do? He was very smart. He said, let's cook. It's okay to cook. Why? I'll offer them prasadam. You see, everything that Prabhupada did is exactly like mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, the wise cooking that he did, the wisdom-laden action that he did. So you should not be a foolish renouncer. Neither should be a person who foolishly sacrifices. You should get spiritual benefit from it. You should remember this very well. That's what Krishna is trying to impress Arjuna about. So he's saying, In the third shloka, Tyajyam doshavaditi eke karma prahur manishinah yajna dana tapa karma natyajyam iti chapare. Translation, please read Madhava Priya, Madhumati. Please read the translation to text 3. Text 3 of chapter 18.
Yes, Maharaj. 1 minute, Maharaj.
1 minute is a long time.
I'm sorry, Maharaj.
I'm joking. Okay, go ahead. It's okay. We'll wait for you. It's a recess in between. Much needed recess.
Translation also, Maharaj.
Only the translation.
Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty, yet other sages maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So Krishna is now saying, first he gave the formula, anything to do with material desire and all that, you should give it up. Anything, don't look at the fruit of the work, that's called Tyaga, he gave. Then he comes down to specifics. But some people say certain things should not be given up. And some people say, two opinions he's talking about. Nischayam shunume tatra tyage bharata sattama tyago hi purusha vyagra trividhas samprakirtitah. Now he goes further to explain. I'll read the translation. O best of the Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation. Now he's saying my judgment. Earlier he said, some people say this. Before he said, Kavayo Viduhu, learned sages say this. Now you can see how it has changed to, hear my judgment. What the sages say is one thing, what he says is something. Now I'm focused on my judgment about renunciation. Nischayam shunu me tatra. I will tell you my nischaya means definite definition, I'll tell you. So, O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of 3 kinds. See, Krishna is saying now it's made out of influence by the modes. And he goes to text 5. Let's go to the text 5. Yajnadana tapa karma natyajyam karyameva tat yajnyo dhanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. Please read that. Chitra Manikam, would you like to read it?
Yes, Maharaj.
Translation for text 5. Text 5, translation.
Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So now this is the judgment and Nischaya conclusion of Krishna. He said, first you must understand, charity, penance, and sacrifice should be never given up, wherever they are, in whichever situation they are. Right? Because they purify even the great souls. Pavanani manishinam. Even the great people get advantage out of it because it purifies them also. Okay? And Prabhupada gives a beautiful purport here, which I would encourage you to read, wherein he's saying that sannyasis should not take part in marriage ceremony, but Prabhupada actually conducts marriage in America. He said these poor people nobody has taught them anything. If I don't teach them, they are, how will it be okay? So he said, don't simply live as boys and girls together. That is not correct. Like in today, you have live-in, rentals. I just heard from somebody in Bangalore saying that, Maharaj, no, you can have girls and boys stay together as live-in tenants. They take one flat and one girl from, Delhi is staying with 2 boys, one from Karnataka and one from Tamil Nadu. That's perfectly all right. They use the same toilet, the bathroom, the kitchen and everything. They're living and they have all sorts of associations. It's all allowed. But this was not there in India before. Now the Supreme Court has ruled that Another thing the Supreme Court has ruled is that same-sex marriages are not allowed yet, but same-sex live-in is allowed. That two persons can live in together and have all sorts of physical association, but they cannot get married. So it's funny. See, this is what happens when man-made laws come into force and you don't understand what's the meaning of human life, what's the goal of human life, then you fabricate all these man-made laws, which makes things more complicated. So you have live-in systems. But Prabhupada told them at that time in the late 1960s and early 70s, he said, no, that is not good for your Krishna consciousness. Get married and live as responsible grahasthas, husband and wife, and you have children, and you grow up the children in Krishna consciousness, live a responsible life. Don't be like animals. So they got introduced to this. You can imagine what all Prabhupada taught them from scratch. Got introduced to this, and he got them married, and they didn't know what's marriage. If you read the Prabhupada's Leela Mrita, so cute and beautiful. He's teaching the ladies how to tie a sari for the wedding. I can't imagine a sannyasi teaching a lady how to tie a sari somewhere in America. But what depths Prabhupada went to give them Bhagavad Gita experience. What a sacrifice that is. That's real tyaga. That's real sannyasa. He said, you are like my spiritual daughters. You should all be nicely grown. You should have children and you should be a good mother. And he encouraged them in that cultural way. So he actually conducted the wedding because nobody was there to do the wedding. And you have pictures of both of them sitting with the parda type of thing and necklace. Now they're all so excited. The Swamiji is, giving us an amazing experience of marriage because, they stayed together already, but they're now going to be different. So they get married. You can see pictures of the, so-called prospective husband, nicely dressed with silk kurta and dhoti, with tilak and kantimala and shaved head, and coming and taking vows in front of the fire, and Prabhupada is doing the yajna and saying that I commit myself to perform my responsibilities as a husband, as a wife. This is happening somewhere in America, in Europe and all that. Prabhupada conducted the weddings. Then people criticized him in India. You look at this man. He is going and doing the weddings, putting people together in weddings and all that. Prabhupada said, I don't care. They don't understand what I'm doing. This is not India. These people, they will never listen to you if you say don't stay together. I have to tell them how to stay together. That's what I'm trying to teach them and take them from here. But these fellows will never understand. They're going to criticize me. But from there, he took a bold step and he created the Krishna consciousness movement in America. It spread all over the world because he took these type of bold decisions. Because he said, I know what is renunciation. I know what is tyaga. Put it to practice. So he did not remain just a monochromatic, dull follower of rules and regulations. He was dynamic. And he said, the real thing is renunciation. I am not getting affected by boys and girls or something. I am just going to help them to be. So he's so powerful a person. He influenced them to take up Krishna consciousness, influenced them to be wonderful grahasthas, influenced them to be good mothers, fathers, and responsible Krishna conscious parents. In this way, he taught them Bhagavad Gita practically. This is real renunciation and real sacrifice. Why should a 70-year-old man go to America and perform weddings for somebody? What reason? But he got them to be devotees. They chanted Hare Krishna. They became so dedicated to Prabhupada and his instructions. Their life changed completely. They became devotees. They were preachers. They were doing projects for Prabhupada. They were traveling the world and printing his books and opening up centers. He created a revolution with these people. Revolution. He said, so what if I get them married? Look what all they are doing for Krishna. Right? They are nice individuals. So he brought out the best in people without looking at you are hippies, you are that, you're born in a lousy culture, you're that. He said that also on the side, but he said, doesn't matter, now you become wonderful Vaikuntavasis, he told them. You look wonderful. You are devotees. He gave them a positive side and he told them, don't go back to your negative side. It's lousy. right? This is sannyasa. Sannyasa doesn't mean sitting under a tree somewhere in the forest in Himalayas to yourself, eating and sleeping under the shade of the tree and enjoying life. Sannyasa means going to the forest of the material world and meeting these type of people who are horrible, low-class people in the world, elevating them. That is sacrifice. That is sannyasa. Not simply doing things for yourself. Do it for Krishna. Please Krishna. Give everybody Krishna consciousness. Elevate them. Give them a chance to understand what's the purpose of human life. That's what sannyasa is meant for. Not that sannyasa is meant for, Muhurat of a new movie that is being shot. Some stupid movie about two guys going around trees and singing love songs and some strange, stupid stuff. You become that. Then you open a hospital. Then you do all the nice charitable activities they do. That's what's the meaning of sannyasa. No. You have to kamyanam karmanam nyasam sannyasam kavayo viduhu means doing it for Krishna. You'll see that in the purport Prabhupada is mentioned. Okay? Yeah. So I want you to pick up these wonderful, nice instructions. These are smart instructions in the 18th chapter. And if you read it very carefully, because you've gone through the whole Bhagavad Gita, you will also be able to design your life accordingly, at least to some extent, if you understand the principles. Okay, so one more shloka, let's read. Etani apitu karmani sangam tyaktva phalani cha kartavyani ti me partha nischitam matam uttamam. All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Pritha. That is my final opinion. Nischitam matam uttamam. Nischitam matam. My opinion definitely is this, that all these should be performed, number one, without attachment for anything or any expectation of result. You see, people get attached to their work. I am a so-and-so, I am very good at it. People should, praise me for it. And I like to do it from morning to evening and I love my work. You become attached to it. Because, of course, that is what is encouraged in this world. You become karmi. Get attached to your work. Work is worship. And all sorts of things they will tell you. But what it does to you is you become blind to the real purpose of work. You become attached. So Krishna is telling here, don't become attached to your work. Right? And then he's saying, don't expect any result out of it. Now, these are very difficult things for people to understand in the world, because you would ask me, what do you mean don't expect result? I am working, I have to maintain my family. Out of my salary, I pay the fees for my child in school. I pay the money required for medical treatment for my, mother who's ailing and with me. And my son, needs to go and get this type of training. And I need to get a place for him in this hostel. I got really expenses and I have to work. And then that money is spent for all these things. How can you say I should work and not have the result? Now, nobody said that actually. When you map it down to modern situations today, yeah, you must do the minimum. But if you work so much and you don't have time to sit and think about your life, apply Bhagavad Gita, read it, think about it, and become a little meditative about life, now what's the use of living a life like that? So you need a balance. You should not overdo the work. You should become overly attached to it. You should be smartly doing your work so that you get what you need, which is you want money for your roti, kapda, makan. That alone you get. And you don't overindulge in other things and give up your time, which is so precious, which can be used for reading Bhagavad Gita, for associating with devotees, discussing them, and worshipping the Lord at your home, going to the temple and hearing some katha. Use your time for all that and do a little bit for what is required for your roti, kapda, makan. That is the way it should translate the understanding. Not that you should think that everything should be given up. Oh, this philosophy is lousy, I cannot follow it. It's not at all practical. That's what you will say. No, There are hundreds and thousands of enthusiastic devotees all over the world, some of them big professionals, earning tons of money. And they're very busy. But they spend time, they come to the temple, they dance, they chant, they hear Bhagavad Gita, they give classes themselves. They have a morning program in their house, which is very strict to get. They have planned their life in such a way, they get the best of both worlds. And then they donate to the temple, they help with the project, they help with that, they help with this. They're excited. They very nicely manage their life, they don't overindulge. But some have good karma, so they make some good money. Some don't have some great karma, but they make enough for themselves. But they all together sit and glorify Krishna and have a fun time. They get together with their families, they go for yatras, they go together to this place, that place, and generally they enjoy life a lot more than other people do. They get both, right? That is smart. That's what I mean by saying smart. You can be without attachment, and you can be without attachment of any great result. Okay, if I do get something by virtue of the fact that I have some good horoscope, fine, I'll use it and live a comfortable material life. Plus, whatever excess I have, I'll also donate for this purpose and that, for Krishna conscious purposes. And that also becomes my devotional service. That means my work becomes meaningful because I'm giving it for Krishna also. In this way, very nicely they manage it. They spend money for having a program in their house every week and cooking up a nice feast of a prasadam. People come, they have kirtan, bhajan, they invite some devotee to speak. He speaks and everybody is served a feast and they feel very happy. Wow, good. By my money, I did a program like this and gave this facility for people. In this way, there are many, many different ways of balancing and not being stupidly, ritualistically, following the rules. Okay, these are things that you can learn. In 7th shloka, Krishna is saying, Niyatsya tu sannyasa karmano no papadyate moha tasya parityaga tamasa parikirtitaha. You can actually, as a homework, do study of renunciation in ignorance and renunciation in passion and renunciation in goodness. These things are explained by Krishna. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. You see, sometimes a grahastha finds a heavy load of his life. Oh my gosh, the first few years of married life was so nice. Now I got kids, 2 of them. And then my wife's parents are also staying with me. And then my father and mother in their native place are sick. They're calling me. I run here, and other than my boss is killing me, and I want a promotion. I want some success in my life. Plus, I want to make some money this way. Wow, life has become real complicated here. I just want to give up my, family life. I want to give up my parents and the responsibility. I want to give up this. I cannot do this. I cannot do that. Wow, the best thing is to actually say that you're a Hare Krishna and say, I'm renouncing and run away, or something like that. Different types of people they use for different things. I've seen devotees who run away from their family life. I'm a devotee. No, she's not helping me to be a devotee. Her parents are all eating meat, and therefore I have to renounce. I have to give up my way. I said, no chance. This is your running away. This is renunciation in the mode of ignorance. Running away from your duties. Prescribed duties should never be given up. Niyat sasya tu sannyasa karmano no apapadyate. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If you're a grahastha, you cannot, in the name of Krishna consciousness having been discovered by you, run away from your responsibilities of family life. We don't encourage that. We'll tell you, go back to the family, make them Krishna conscious, stay at home, practice Krishna consciousness, take some austerity and do it. That's what Krishna is saying. Don't use renunciation as an excuse to run away from responsibility, because renunciation is also a responsibility. It's not that because you're a sannyasi, you can hang around, people will look after you, will give you money, give you food, so you don't have to do any work. You sit there and grow a big tummy and keep blessing people. There are so many like that all over the place, you can see them. Prabhupada did not want us to be like that. He said that's not what's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. A sannyasi in ISKCON is a very active person. He is involved in so many institutional activities, in preaching and projects, as community heads, and counseling people and teaching people. It's not that we are just scholars alone. We have a multifarious, dimensional, multitasking responsibilities that we undertake because we're given up the other responsibilities in material life. We'll substitute it as responsibilities for Krishna. Similarly, in Grahastha life also, a person should not run away from his responsibility. He should take responsibility on the strength of his Krishna consciousness, on the strength of his devotion, it will become all right. That is a positive, smart way that Krishna is slowly coming to explain, right? Then he goes to say, Rajasic, anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. You know, in my younger days, my grandmother and all of them, I remember vaguely, they go on Kashi trips, visit to Kashi, Varanasi. So in the Brahmin community, you have, if you go to Kashi, you have to give up something in Kashi and come back. Never again in your life you can do it. So my grandmother said, I gave up beans. I'll never again eat that, beans, one flat beans and other type of beans. And then the next time she went, she said, I gave up something that I like, I give up. She was very austere lady. My grandmom was a real austere lady. I said, why did you give up that? When I was young, I said, why would you give up that? He said, because I like that very much, I gave up. I said, stupid. You should have given up pavakai, the bitter gourd. And many people, she said, yeah, they all do that. They go to Kashi and give up the things that they don't like. Anyway, I don't like to eat this. I give up pavakai. I give up this bitter gourd like that and come back. It's not an austerity. It's not an austerity. So these are all passion and ignorance renunciations. It's so funny that Krishna points out all these things because he knows how human beings behave. So my grandmother would say, no, you give up something that you like, otherwise why is it give up? But now I'm recollecting that my grandmother knew the spirit of renunciation. She gave up that bean, she said, I like it very much. Next time she gave up something else and she said, I like that very much, so I'm giving it up. Like that. So we want spiritual progress, and renunciation should be tied up with that nicely. So devotees give up, I don't see movies, I don't drink tea, coffee, I don't go to restaurants and eat food that is not offered to Krishna. I don't mix with people who just talk about politics and this and that. I don't have time for that. They give up a lot of things. They sacrifice a lot of things which doesn't aid them to. They may have a little attachment for this and that a little bit, but they somehow don't do it. I remember once I thought that I should never, I was very ardent reader of the newspaper and the editorial and all that. My father taught me, he said, read the editorial in the Hindu when I was very young, and I would read it out for him and he would sit and listen. Every day he will open straight and read that editorial. I remember that 2 elephants and in the middle Hindu, that insignia will be there, and he'd tell me, read it. And I would read for him. That's how I learned to pronounce the English properly and all that. My father would say, no, not like this, like this. And he will listen to it as he was dressing up, because in the morning he wants to get abreast of the news. What's the headlines? What's this? So somehow from him I picked up, I like to read the newspaper. What's going on in the world? So I was reading the newspaper for a long time in the morning, spending at least 15 to 20 minutes early morning, coming back in the evening and again reading it and all that. Those days there was no internet. Then when I became a devotee, I said, I should never do that. And for several years, I never read any newspaper. I don't know what's going on in the world. I was just... Then one day, I saw a devotee saying that this is what's happening. I said, oh, that is Maya to read the newspaper. He said, no, you have to know what's going on in the world. Otherwise, how can you preach to them? If you don't know, you'll be having no knowledge about some of these things. Then I was a little confused. Then after some months, somebody told me, see, Prabhupada's conversation is walking. And then he's telling that temple president somewhere, I don't know, America, Europe or somewhere. He's telling somebody, so what did those rascals are saying? He's telling, read the newspaper and tell me what the rascals are saying. He's using the word rascals. What the rascals are saying, tell me. And then Prabhupada, the newspaper, yeah, read it, tell the headlines. And say, this has happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And then this devotee is very shy. Can you read the newspaper? If you're a temple president, you should read the newspaper and know what's going on in the world. Prabhupada is telling him, If you're preaching, how can you preach without knowing what's going on around you? What's happening in the city? What's the latest policy of the government? What's happening? This, you should be aware of it. How can you preach otherwise? Wow. I heard that and said, my gosh, makes a lot of sense to me. I was at that moment appreciated Prabhupada so highly. I said, anything you can do for Krishna consciousness properly. You can read the newspaper and understand things and preach according to that. And sensitivity towards what's happening. And you tie up and dovetail things like that, and people accept it. Because everybody else is reading all these things. And if you show ignorance, what's the use? So you will see that in many of these things, what's what I said in the beginning, smart renunciation and smart sacrifice with Krishna in the center is the central piece that you should think about. Om Tat Sat. I shall end here because it's exactly 1 hour since I started.